It is 7 o'clock, and I would like to start and welcome everybody to the DFL State Auditor Candidate Forum, hosted by a cooperative group of 9 DFL caucuses. I'll name them right now, and at the end of the evening, you'll be able to hear more from each of the caucuses. The African American Caucus, the Asian American Pacific Islander Caucus, which is AAPI, the Environmental Caucus, the Feminist Caucus, my DFL, which is the Minnesota Young DFL Caucus, the Muslim Caucus, the DFL Rural Caucus, Senior Caucus, and Jewish Community Outreach Organization came together about 6 weeks ago, and we collaborated in developing the format for this forum as well as the questions. And I just want to thank all of my colleagues in these other caucuses. It's been fun. And I'm especially grateful to
Oh
the
my
DFL
God.
state auditor candidates. A couple things right away. Everybody mute yourself unless you're talking. Or can I ask our control room people to mute all? And just make sure that the candidates get unmuted. The first part of our forum involves introductions of the candidates, in which they will be given 5 minutes to really introduce themselves to us and talk about why they're running and why we should vote for them. Ron Wax will be our timekeeper. They will get a 30-minute warning when they are at 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And then Ron will wrap up with a thank you when they end their presentation. So after that's done, the caucuses have prepared a number of questions, and those questions are going to be asked by various caucus leaders and representatives. And we're rotating the order in which candidates are asked the questions. Those questions each get a 90-second response from each candidate. Again, Ron's the timekeeper, and at 30 seconds, he'll let them know 30 seconds so that they can wrap up with 90 seconds. After all the questions and answers occur, then the candidates each give a 1 minute closing. And then the candidate forum is pretty much over, and we hear a presentation of 1 minute each from each of the caucuses going in alphabetical order. A couple of other things to note. The candidates have received the questions 5 minutes in advance of this forum. We did that as a courtesy. The questions are also going to be put in the chat. Is that right, Alyssa? Great. And they've also been very cooperative, because as we met, we would kind of make decisions on the format, length of answers, and so forth. So many thanks to the candidates for being cooperative. Lastly, if you have a technical issue or have a particular question, because we're not taking questions from the floor, can you send questions here in the chat? The chat is closed except for sending the questions to Alyssa Brickman, who's in the panel here. All righty. Well, I think with that, we will begin, and I want to introduce you to the candidates. And if you could put them in the screen.
On it.
Excellent. You can take me out, actually, and put Ron in as well. And thanks for your patience as we get this part set up. So this is Ron, our timekeeper. This is Zack Filipovich of Duluth.
Do you want me to
I hope.
start now or?
Nope. Nope.
Okay.
We'll wait till the rest of the candidates are in the screen. Thanks, Zack.
Give him a break.
And there is Adam Jennings from Tonka Bay. Hey, Adam. And Ben Schierer from Fergus Falls.
Hey, Ben.
Ben, you made it back.
Yes, I did.
And Dan Wolgamott. I don't know if you're in the legislature or at home. Dan, welcome.
Thank you so much. Happy to be on with everyone.
All righty. Well, I am now going to turn it over to Saraswati of the Feminist Caucus. She's going to introduce the candidates, and they will each give 5 minutes, and Ron will give 30-second notice. So Saraswati, take it away.
Thank you so much, Teresa. And thank you for all the hard work you've put in for organizing this event. She's a true leader. I want to welcome all
Thank
four
you.
candidates. Oh, you're welcome. All four candidates for the DFL Auditor position. Whenever someone steps up to the plate to run for office, it's democracy is lucky. So thank you for throwing your hat in the ring and for being willing to engage with the community in this forum. As Teresa mentioned, Ron is the timekeeper, so he will speak up, and I will start by saying one name, and then you will have 5 minutes to go for it. And then I'll introduce the next person, and then you'll have 5 minutes. So with that, let's start with Zack Filipovich from Duluth. I apologize, that didn't roll off my tongue easily.
Oh, you're good. No one gets it right. My name is Zack Filipovich. Thank you all so much for being here. I hope everyone is doing well. My name is Zack Filipovich. I am an accountant from Duluth, and I'm running for Minnesota State Auditor. I hope everyone is as excited about this race and this position as I am. I want to just tell you a little bit about myself and my background. When I was a kid, my dad, he's a retired railroad guy. He sat me up on his knee and he taught me to look at numbers a little bit differently. Financial statements are the reflections of our actions and our priorities, and they can help us make better decisions to move forward. In my own community of Duluth, I've seen families struggling to pay for housing. As an accountant, I've worked with individuals who've had to make the impossible choice between not getting the medical care that they need or going into debt to pay for it. In 2013, I was elected as the youngest city councilor in Duluth's history. I served for 2 terms, or 8 years, and I actually represented more people than a state senator does, just at the local unit, local level of government, which that is what this position is all about. And so right now, I'm actually the finance manager of a local nonprofit here in Duluth. We do economic development work, and I get to go across northeastern Minnesota talking with rural business owners and rural local units of government folks to help them make better financial decisions. I am the only accountant in this race. There's 8 people running. 4 of us are Democrats. There's 4 good ones, and there's 1 accountant, and that's me. I'm a certified management accountant, or CMA, and so that means that I have extensive experience and background and knowledge in strengthening and implementing internal controls, which is important to help detect, prevent, and correct fraud, financial decision making, and financial reporting, which is something that every single one of the 3,500 or so local government units do and present their financial statements to the state auditor position. This is an important race, and this is an important position. The state auditor oversees $60 billion in local government taxes and spending, and the state auditor provides our local communities with oversight, with guidance, and with data so they can make the best decisions for themselves. I want to close out and tell a little story that speaks a little bit to my background and my motivation. When I was a kid, about 12 years old, my grandparents, John and Pearl Filipovich, they hosted a picnic for Senator Paul Wellstone. And the senator's there talking with folks, and he sees me, and he comes in, and he kind of gets down. And I was 12, so I forget what he said. But the important part is that the United States Senator took the time to say hello to a little kid. A little 12-year-old boy who, quite frankly, could not vote for him. I never got the chance to. He died a few months later. I did not have any influence or any money besides my allowance to give the senator, but he took the time. He drew me into the conversation. He drew the circle bigger. And that's what we do as Democrats, and that's what we do as Minnesotans. We draw the circle bigger to make sure everyone has the opportunity to have their voice heard, to have their thoughts and opinions shared with the rest of the group. And quite frankly, that is exactly what the state auditor is all about. The state auditor, make sure that there is a voice for the 3,500 or so local units of government to make sure that they have the tools and training that they need to make the best decisions for themselves. And so that is a bit of why I'm running. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. And this is a great opportunity to get to meet all of us. And you will have to forgive me. I am kind of recovering from a little bit of a cold. So if you see me cough or do a little sniffle, you'll know why. But I really appreciate everyone's time and everyone being here today. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Jack. That was wonderful. Well, I think we'll go to our next candidate, Adam Jennings. Please take it away. You have 5 minutes, and Ron will give a shout out at the 30-second mark if you hit it before 30 seconds before the end of 5 minutes, and then again at the end of 5 minutes. Go ahead, Adam.
Great. Thank you. And I appreciate everybody putting this together too. This is a great opportunity for us to talk, and you get to see all the candidates in the same place at the same time, and hopefully be able to put yourselves in a place where you can make informed decisions going into the convention. But my name is Adam Jennings. I'm also running for Minnesota State Auditor. And, it's funny. I like to say that I'm a finance guy who stumbled into politics and not the other way around. It was funny. I actually was approached by a neighbor at National Night Out. I was probably about 40, and they just had indicated, hey, there's an open spot on city council, and we think you'd be a good fit for it. You should maybe think about running. And Tonka Bay is pretty small. We're about 1,500 people, and I thought it might be a good way to get to know people and get involved in the community, and decided to go for it, and ended up ultimately winning. And it's been a fantastic experience ever since then. But I feel like I'm one of those folks that's gotten to live the American dream, which is so elusive for so many today. And those opportunities don't necessarily exist. So just want to talk a little bit about where I'm coming from and kind of how it created my value set going forward. I went through bankruptcy when I was in high school with my parents. My dad lost his job. He went out and he found an hourly wage, but the best that he could find was something that would only allow him to work 32 hours a week, anything in excess of that, and they had to pay benefits. So that obviously wasn't enough to cut muster. So he went out and found a second job, but the second job wouldn't allow him to work any less than 32 hours a week because they wanted to maximize the amount of time that they could get out of him and still not paying benefits. And we slowly descended into bankruptcy, ultimately lost the house and the car. And that's always stuck with me. Now, we were in Oklahoma at the time, and as soon as I graduated high school, I moved to Minnesota. I've been here ever since. Economic opportunity is significantly better. My brother was here at the time, and it's certainly more progressive than Oklahoma is as well. I started working the line at the Ford Motor Company. I was building pickup trucks at the Twin Cities Assembly Plant. Was a strong member of the UAW that was there, had fantastic healthcare. The only thing I ever had to pay for was a $5 copay for any drug that we needed. And while I was there, September 11th happened. And I felt like I really needed to do something and get involved. So I decided to join the Minnesota Army National Guard. Now, originally I was supposed to be in artillery, but the powder bags for the artillery guns are color coded, and I'm colorblind. So once they found that out, they transferred me over to finance, and that was my introduction to things years ago. I was deployed, and while I was abroad, decided to study financial accounting and macroeconomics, and absolutely fell in love with it. I was learning about banking, the Fed, interest rates, capital investment, and the importance of all those things. And I decided that this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. So came home, ended up attending the Carlson School of Management, where I got my MBA in finance. Went to go work for Allianz, where I worked with their team and over a number of years, was ultimately promoted and managed a $9.2 billion portfolio, is spending my time between here, Munich, and London. Fascinating position. You fast forward to today, as a small business owner now, I have 30 employees, and none of them pay a dime in healthcare. I cover it all. That's life, that's dental, that's vision, that's short and long-term disability, that's life insurance. I do all of it because that's extremely important to me. I've also been mayor for the last 10 years. On city council for the last 10 years, mayor for the last 6. And during that time, we've been able to improve 25% of our water, sewer, and roads for infrastructure that had otherwise not been touched since the 60s. Now, I think I bring an interesting set of skills and experiences to this particular job that make me a great fit. As a combat veteran, I understand the meaning of service. As a financial professional, I understand those numbers and how to keep them honest. As a small business owner, I know how to put my values into practice. And as the mayor of a small city, I understand the importance of collaboration and the things that need to be done in order to
30 seconds.
In order to work effectively with your neighbors. So again, my name is Adam Jennings. I do appreciate the time. Thank you for having us this evening, and really looking forward to the rest of it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Adam Jennings from Tonka Bay. We appreciate your remarks. Next up, we have Ben Schierer from Fergus Falls. I've been to the courthouse up there. It's a nice place. Welcome. Please give your 5-minute remarks.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, everyone. I'm about 2 blocks away from that courthouse right now. So, and it is a beautiful courthouse. Hi, everyone. My name is Ben Schierer. It's great to be with you. Thanks to all the caucuses for putting this on. I'm up here in Fergus Falls, 2 blocks from the courthouse. This is where I grew up in this community. It's where I met my wife. It's where my wife and I started 2 Main Street businesses from scratch. I'm really proud of that fact. It's also where my wife, Tessa, and I are raising our 5 kids. And the other candidates are getting tired of me hearing me say this, but like Tessa likes to say, of those 5 kids, 4 of them are Democrats, and in Fergus Falls, that's pretty damn good, right? But it's also where I served 16 years as a local elected official, including 2 terms as mayor of Fergus Falls, twice elected as a rural progressive in one of the reddest parts of the state. And that's really critical to my message. It's critical to my public service career, and it's critical to why I'm running for state auditor for a couple reasons. First, every candidate in this race, and there are good candidates in this race, and thanks to all of the other competitors for just putting on a really good race. This has been a lot of fun, and I'm learning a lot. But everyone's going to talk about local government, and there is no office in the state closer to local government than the state auditor's office, who oversees $60 billion in local government spending. That is critical. That's super important to the local governments, making sure local leaders have tools and resources to manage those funds effectively and efficiently. This is a management position. I believe it's a leadership position, right? Because beyond that, there's 85 plus employees in the auditor's office. We need someone with executive experience and management ability. I have that. In fact, I also believe in my vision for this office goes beyond just simply financial management oversight, which is important. We can create relationships with local communities. The auditor oversees programs and sits on boards that are critical to these local communities. A couple I'm going to mention because they're incredibly important to me. Tax increment financing. There is no more important job creation or economic development tool for local communities than tax increment financing. The auditor sits on the Rural Finance Authority. I heard I get bonus points for mentioning the Rural Finance Authority. There are opportunities. The dollars that the Rural Finance Authority invests in communities. If you've been in Waubun, if you've seen what BNT means to that community, that is important. Those dollars matter to rural communities and main streets. And I want to make sure that we bring the ideas of those leaders in so we can reinvest those dollars, create other entrepreneurial pathways and value-added agricultural businesses in our communities. And then housing, Minnesota Housing Finance Agency Board, which the auditor sits on. There are jobs in this state that go unfilled in Fergus Falls and Rochester and Hibby, across the state, in Minneapolis, because we don't have the housing to support them. I want to build relationships, and I've spent my entire 16 years in local office, not just in Fergus Falls, but through the League of Minnesota Cities, the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities. I was one of the original Minnesota mayors together building relationships, right? And that leadership was recognized. I have a master's from the Humphrey in public affairs. I was a Bush Fellow, a New Deal leader, and a presidential leadership scholar. All of that work was focused on how we strengthen local governments and build relationships across the state to make sure local government works. That is critical. That is critical to me and why I'm running for state auditor. And I really believe that we can bring those voices in and make sure that the state programs work for all communities across the state. Here's the last thing I'll say, and this is maybe the most important thing to me. As a DFLer, if we are going to be a party for the entire state, we have to have candidates from the entire state who can connect with some of the voters that we've lost over the last couple decades. There is a real opportunity in 2026 to do that, but we need candidates who have lived, worked, and served in those communities. I want to thank every one of the caucuses because we are a party that believes in coalitions. And it's important and it speaks volumes that all of you are here together in this race. And that's what this campaign has done. We have built coalitions across government, across the state, and across our party. We have endorsements from Attorney General Keith Ellison to former Congressman Colin Peterson, to mayors from Marshall and Laverne and New York Mills and Brooklyn Park. We have endorsements from Senator Eric Putnam, from Rob Kupek. Today, we just learned, I'm very, very proud, we get the endorsement from Senator Bobby Joe Champion. We have shown that we can build coalitions across this party and be a party for the entire state. I'm Ben Schierer. I want to thank each and every one of you, and that's why I'm running for state auditor.
Thank you so much, Ben. That was wonderful. Our timekeeper has given us the flag, and then we'll go to our fourth candidate for the state auditor position, Dan Wolgamott, and you are from St. Cloud. Thank you for joining us this evening. Please go ahead. You've got 5 minutes.
All right. Well, thank you so much to all of the different caucuses for hosting this, to my fellow competitors for the next step in this great race that we're running, and to all of you. You could be anywhere in the world doing anything at all, and you're here today to get informed on what's happening in the hottest race in the state, the auditor's race. My name is Dan Wolgamott. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a high school football coach. I'm a 4-term member of the Minnesota House of Representatives, representing the nitty-gritty Granite City of St. Cloud, Minnesota. And I'm also the DFL chair of the Higher Education Committee. And I'm here this evening to ask for your support and earn it to be Minnesota's next state auditor. And before I get into why I'm running, I want to just stop and take a moment to give credit where credit is due. Our current auditor, Julie Blaha, has done an amazing job these last 8 years. Let's give a virtual round of applause to Julie. She's been terrific. We appreciate you, Julie. Unfortunately, Julie's not, there we go. I love seeing all the hands. That's awesome. Julie definitely deserves it. Unfortunately, Julie isn't running for election, and I want to make sure that we've got a strong, experienced Democrat ready to fill in her shoes, and that's why I'm running. My 8 years in the House of Representatives have given me direct, hands-on experience that correlate directly to being our next state auditor. I'm the only candidate before us today who has experience overseeing billions of taxpayer dollars. In addition to making decisions about the entirety of the state budget, Melissa Horman appointed me to be the higher education chair. She appointed me to oversee and account for the third largest budget in our state, the higher education budget. I'm also the only candidate who has statewide experience working directly statutorily with all levels of local government, cities, counties, townships, school boards. The local government, the role the state auditor plays in supporting local governments is crucial. I've got those relationships. I've been doing that work. I'm also excited to be running for auditor to be a strong protector of our public pensions. I have served on the Legislative Pension Retirement Commission. I've also got experience working with the real hot button issue that everyone's here tonight to talk about, tax increment finance districts. I've got experience working on those. The auditor has a TIF division. The list goes on, but you get the point. I've been doing this work in the House statewide for the last 8 years, and I'm excited to continue that work as our next auditor. I'm also running because I believe as Democrats, we've got to have a plan to take on the F word. That's right. I said it, the F word. Fraud. Fraud is like a wrecking ball that is wreaking havoc on our state institutions. It's a real problem because it plays right into Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans' narrative of undermining faith in our government. And it hurts our ability as Democrats to fund programs that improve people's lives. We're the party of Paul Wellstone. We're the party of we all do better when we all do better. And we fight hard for these programs to help people. But when criminals come in and take money from those programs, it takes resources away from the Minnesotans who need it the most. So I've got a plan to expand the auditor's authority to be able to combat fraud by having the authority to audit state agencies. The auditor does crucial work auditing local government, and that's really important. But we need to make Minnesota the 21st state to have a state audit state agencies, conduct investigations, issue subpoenas, refer matters for criminal or civil prosecution. We can make the auditor's office the one-stop shop of accountability and restore that trust and confidence in our stewardship of taxpayer dollars. The last thing I want to say is you can have the best qualifications, you can have the sharpest plans, but none of it matters unless we win. Now, this auditor's election is going to be a tough race, but believe me, I'm no stranger to tough races. I'm the only Democrat in the House to represent a district won by Donald Trump. I'm the only candidate before you today who knows what it's like to be on a ballot with D by my name. I know how to take on the attacks from the Republicans, cut through that noise, and connect with voters who don't always automatically vote for Democrats. But those are the voters that we need if we're going to keep the auditor's office blue and elect Democrats up and down the ballot. Thank you, and looking forward to a great conversation going forward.
Thank you so much, Dan. And thank you to all 4 of our auditor candidates. We've finished the introductions. Please give them all a round of applause. And now I'm going to kick the duties over back to our very capable Teresa.
Thanks. Thank you, candidates. That was great. I did just want to draw people's attention to the chat where the campaign's information is there so that you can pursue contact with the candidates as you wish. Also in the chat as we move forward, Alyssa Brickman will drop in the questions that we're going to be asking. And that's the next step of our forum here. And lastly, I think that those who are in the listed in the participants list as host can also take any questions. We're not taking questions from the floor, but if you have any technical issues, by all means, share them with Alyssa or with Jeff, myself. And then I did just want to say that we are recording this, and this recording will be made available to the candidates themselves as well as to the various caucuses. So use that, and it's a great opportunity to kind of get the word out. Finally, let's give ourselves a pat on the back because we are now at 200 attendees. Woohoo! I want to know from the candidates, have you been at a forum with 200 attendees? You probably have. I know you've been to fundraisers with 200 attendees, but I just want to say thanks, colleagues, cooperating caucuses for coming together and for taking time out of your busy schedule. So it feels good to have 200. Wonder who will be, oh, now we're at 199. Okay, better quit this. Next, we will start with our questions. And again, the format for this is different. Of the caucus leadership will ask the question. And I think just to make it go smoothly, if you could just give the order of the people who are answering at the beginning, we'll essentially do the same order for the first question as we just did for the opening statements, but then we're going to be rotating. So question askers, please state the order and of which candidate is going and then announce the candidate before. Hopefully this will go smoothly, and we'll start out with Jeff Strand.
Thank you, Chair.
90
Gaveney.
seconds for the questions.
Thank you, Chair Cavaney, Jeffrey Strand, Vice Chair of Rural Caucus from rural Cottonwood County, Southwest Minnesota, CD7. Our first question will go to first responder will be candidate Zack Filipovich. Question is, there is a lot of focus on Minnesota regarding financial misappropriation in the schemes, including, quote, feeding our future, unquote, and Small Business Administration SBA loans. What are the key learning lessons from these incidents, and how do you plan to make the reporting and accountability systems of the State Auditor's Office more transparent and robust?
Thank you, Jeff. That's an important question, and I've been hearing the question about fraud at nearly every event that I have been at. Well, I want to make a very important distinction. The State Auditor's Office focuses on local units of government. So think your cities, your townships, your school districts, that $60 billion of the tax money that is closest to each and every one of you. But as a concerned citizen, as an accountant, I have some thoughts on the fraud, the statewide fraud issue as well. Even though the state auditor needs to remain focused on the local communities. This fraud that we've been seeing, and you mentioned the Feeding Our Future case, yes, that was actual federal money, if we all remember, from the Trump first administration, pushed out very, very quickly with no oversight, with no guidance on how to keep track of that money. And unfortunately, this was a very predictable situation. When you have money that's being pushed out very fast with no apparatus or infrastructure on how to keep track of it, bad things are going to happen, and that's exactly what did happen. I think we need to ensure that we have internal controls, strengthened internal controls at our state agencies. I think it'd be nice to have inspector generals at the federal level to keep track of those federal dollars. And I think we need to make sure that we bring back those jobs that were done by state union employees instead of third-party agencies. That will help reduce the fraud from happening in the first place.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you. Second responder is candidate Adam Jennings. Do you need to have me read the question again?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's COVID. We had an unprecedented level of need that was out there, both from individuals and businesses, and the government really stepped up. And there was a great deal of money that was pushed out the community to help. But the speed with which it happened, and there was a lack of bandwidth within the government agencies themselves, we ended up hiring a number of nonprofit private entities. And there was a breakdown in oversight in doing that. It's kind of what opened up the door for Feeding Our Future. Now, I've been talking about this for months. The OSA right now is horribly understaffed. We have roughly 90 individuals that are there. And I think it's imperative that we bring it up to full staffing. The high watermark used to be 165, but it got gutted during the Pawlenty administration when they were making all kinds of draconian cuts. For $9 million, roughly, we could probably get up to about 150 employees. And if you think about that relative to a $33 billion operating budget, that only represents about 0.2%. It's not like we're asking for a new car. We're asking for a night out on the town. So, yeah, if we could increase our own bandwidth from within, that certainly would help things in the future. But yeah, internal controls, something as simple as sending people out and doing site visits to some of these places to make sure that we can get boots on the ground and eyeballs on, whether or not these things actually exist. Thanks.
Thank you. Third candidate responder is Ben Schierer. Would you like to have me read the long question again?
No, I'm good. Thanks. Thanks, Jeffrey. So fraud, there is a lot of talk. There's going to be a lot of talk from both Democrats and Republicans, rightfully so. The fraud is unacceptable. We have to stop it, right? And I think there's important differences between the office of the state auditor, which we're running for, and the legislative auditor, especially when you're doing the work, important distinctions between state programs and local governments. But the truth is the public doesn't know that. So we have to talk about how we're going to stop the fraud, right? So I'll talk about how, what I've done as a small business owner and as a mayor, right? So, first, and I'll tell you what I'll do on day one as auditor. First thing I do is make sure that there's a fraud hotline available to the public across the state, but also importantly, make sure that local leaders have access to setting up fraud hotlines within local units of government for employees on the front lines. That's how you can stop fraud in local units of government. That's not a campaign slogan. That's something we actually did in Fergus Falls while I was mayor, long before fraud was in the headlines. Second thing, make sure that all 85 plus employees in the auditor's office are available. Those are professional auditors, professional public accountants, whether it's a state agency or a township government. We have to stop the fraud. It's all hands on deck, and all 85 of those employees will be available to whoever needs it. Third thing, for me, it's about creating culture of accountability, uniform internal controls across all divisions, and a laser focus on prevention. We have to stop we can't be performing autopsy. We have to cut the cancer out before it spreads. That's what I did as a small business owner. That's what I did as a mayor. That's what I'll do as state auditor.
Thank you. And fourth responder candidate Dan Wolgamott.
Well, I'm so grateful this is the first question because I think this is crucial. You want to know what is the key lesson from these incidents? The lesson is our system isn't working. The structure that was set up back in 1973 to have the state auditor have jurisdiction only over local government is not working. Back in 1973, they could have never imagined the demands of our state budget. And you can look no further of how DHS missed some incidents of autism therapy kickbacks. Now, the legislative auditor did a great job of doing an autopsy looking back, but we've got to change our system so that we have the state auditor working in conjunction with the legislative auditor, similar to how a local police department works with the county sheriff. Give the state auditor the authority to conduct annual audits, work in conjunction with the legislative auditor. Let's modernize our system. Let's make Minnesota the 21st state in the country to have a state auditor who audits state agencies.
30.
Lesson learned is our system from 1973 is not working, and we need to modernize it by expanding the auditor's authority to audit state agencies.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, candidates, and thanks to the question writers. These are great. Our second question comes from Martha Holton Dimmick. She will read that question and direct the candidate order. Go ahead, Martha. Oh, you're on mute. Still on mute. Let me see if I can find you.
I got it.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yep.
Welcome, candidates. I represent the Minnesota DFL Senior Caucus, and my question is, what challenges does the state office auditor face with local political subdivisions in greater Minnesota, and how would you address them? What unique opportunities have you identified in working with greater Minnesota? It will be Adam, Ben, Dan, and Zack. Adam.
Great. Thank you for that question. Ultimately, this comes down to resources. You have 856 cities in the state of Minnesota. Roughly half of those have a population of less than 1,000. You have cities out there that don't have a tax base in some cases to have their own treasurer or finance director or any number of issues that they simply can't afford. As state auditor, there are a couple things I think we could potentially do. I think there's an opportunity for us to approach the legislature and put together a $30,000 annual grant for local communities, and that does two things. One, it centralizes all of that activity right in the state auditor's office. We remove any private middleman that's there. It helps us put together our annual reports on a more effective basis. But the other thing that it does, and I say this as someone who oversees a city of around 1,500, $30,000 would be 1.5% of our overall budget. This can be an economic boon. I mean, we bought a brand new pickup truck for our public works department just this past fall. It was an $80,000 truck. That was 4% of our operating budget. So these communities, if you were to provide that sort of stipend, could either provide a tax cut to their communities, or they could use it in other ways to either purchase equipment or do repairs on building and services as well. So I think a lot of it is about funding. It's also about partnership. The OSA is largely a partner with local communities, and anything that we can do to help assist them, because when you have volunteers stepping up to do the bookkeeping, there are going to be mistakes. So we need to think of, hoofbeats, think of horses, not zebras.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. And now I'll hear from Ben.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the question. I really appreciate it. This is where I live and work every day, right? I work with 82 cities in a 9-county region and a portion of the White Earth Nation. First of all, we have to understand, most importantly, property taxes are a breaking point for so many of these rural communities, right? So that off the top of we have to understand that. Second thing is we need to bring the voices of the local leaders so that the state policies being passed in St. Paul actually work. The housing programs, the tax increment, like we need to make sure these programs actually work and have the voices. And third thing I think is we need to find ways from the auditor's office specifically. I think there's opportunities to create efficiencies to ease the burden on the tax, the property taxes and the tax base. And I think there's opportunities, like right now we're doing financial audits. I think there's opportunities. People talk about expanding the auditor's office. If we're going to expand the auditor's office, we need to focus on local government. We need to do performance audits. Financial audits ask the question, are you doing things right? Performance audits ask the question, are we doing the right things? There are efficiencies to be had because these local small communities, they don't have the finance professionals. Many of them don't. I've been in Lake Park and Audubon and New York Mills and Wheaton yesterday. I've talked to the actual clerks and the treasurers who are doing these financial reporting. They don't have the capacity. They don't have and we can help them from the auditor's office. I think we can do performance audits to make sure that there's internal controls, there's cost effective saving measures that we can help with these for good government.
Thank you, Ben. Dan?
We are so blessed in Minnesota to have so many unique forms of local governments. We've got 87 counties, more than 800 cities, and over 1,700 townships. During my 8 years in the House of Representatives, I've had to make decisions from them all. And as far as the unique challenges, the biggest thing that we need to remember is that with 87 counties, 800 cities, 1,700 townships, one-size-fits-all approaches do not work. I was actually just talking with folks from Beltrán County, talking about how the formulas for transportation funding that might work well in the Twin Cities actually work paradoxically in greater Minnesota because the funding is allocated per student, but they have longer distances to travel with their buses, they have less students, and they have a lower property tax base. What the state auditor can do is use the power of numbers, use the power of data, use the power of reviews and reports to empower local governments to tell their story, to show where those needs are, and make sure that rather than have a one-size-fits-all approach, that we have equitable formulas coming out of state government, equitable processes that are implemented by our local governments to make sure that everyone, no matter what your zip code, no matter whether you're from the Twin Cities area, the suburbs of greater Minnesota, that everyone has the opportunity to thrive in our state. We've got the power of data and numbers. We can tell those stories.
Thank you, Dan. And Zack?
Thank you, Martha, so much. This is a great question and one that I've been talking about a little bit here on the campaign trail. One big issue that affects every piece of Minnesota, but especially our rural communities, is the fact that 75% of CPAs will be retiring in the next 5 to 7 years. And folks are absolutely correct. So many of our local townships and smaller units of government the finances are being kept track of by a volunteer. I met a woman named Janet down in the sewer, Minnesota, late last year, and she's no longer the township treasurer because she wanted to go off and do other things and kind of retire. Well, guess what? When I asked her who is replacing you, she did not know. And so she is not able to train in that next person, and that's where the state auditor's office is so critical for rural Minnesota. Because remember that guidance piece that I talked about before? That means training and making sure that those people have the tools and know how to classify each and every transaction correctly. So local taxpayers know and have confidence in their local tax financials. And I think that is critically important. It's going to take partnerships to solve this issue. It's not going to be a one-term issue to help solve. This is going to take partnerships with local community members, with the state auditor's office, and with other parties as well to make sure that we are ready for the next generation of finance professionals and finance volunteers out in greater Minnesota. Thank you.
Thank you, Zack.
That wraps up that question. And the next question will go to Megan Bond with the DFL Environmental Caucus. Megan, welcome. Let's see. Megan, are you?
I'm here. Sorry. Just took me a
There
second
you go.
to get to that. Okay. Sorry. Had my camera off for a reason. My phone keeps going off. Anyhow, so thanks to everyone for being here tonight. Just want to start with questions. The order in who I'd like to answer this would be, I'm sorry.
Okay. It's Ben, Dan, Zach, and Adam. Sorry about that.
You. No, I'm sorry. I guess I apologize, everyone. I was filling in last minute for our vice chair. I'm Megan Bonham, the chair emerita for the Environmental Caucus. I've been helping planning this, but our vice chair, Libby, was supposed to be here tonight, and I apologize. I'm just stepping in last minute. So my question for you is, as auditor and as a member of the State Executive Council, what would be your criteria for evaluating mineral leases and timber rights on state land?
Yeah, thanks, Megan. Thanks for the question. I guess, this is something I have not known a lot about and dealt with a lot in my role as mayor or with my job working with 82 communities in West Central Minnesota. I deal a lot with agriculture. I think there's opportunities for things in agriculture. But here's what I'd say. What are the short and long-term ramifications for businesses, for the environment, for local communities, and for the state in general? And then how do current regulations and permits line up with the potential future purposes and needs? That, I guess, to answer your question specifically, that's the criteria I would use.
Thanks, and Megan, go ahead. You can just call on the next person.
Okay, next one is Dan.
Well, thank you very much for this question. One of the things that makes Minnesota a great place to live is our outdoors. It's not our tropical climate, obviously, but one of the best parts of being in Minnesota is going fishing and hiking and enjoying all that nature and our environment has to offer. And it's really important that we be good stewards of that and make sure that our natural resources are available for generations of Minnesotans to come. So when it comes to having criteria for evaluating mineral leases and timber rights on state land, we need to have accountability. And for any companies coming forward to get these leases, I will do a very deep dive in their history, and they will be, at a minimum, heavily penalized, if not absolutely disqualified, if they have any history of OSHA violations, of wage theft, of union busting, or unmitigated environmental violations, whether in our state or other states. Got to have accountability. We've got to be good stewards of our land. That's the approach I'll take when approving those leases.
Thank you. Next would be Zach.
Awesome. Megan, thank you so much for the question. This is actually an important topic, especially in the part of the state where I'm from, up here in northeastern Minnesota. I think we, especially in places like northeastern Minnesota, where our tax base is so limited, we need to have a balance between responsible economic development and, of course, protecting our environment. My grandparents were instrumental in helping state lawmakers back in the day, back in the 70s, help write some of the legislation that help protect our Boundary Waters canoe area and the North Shore and all of our environmental areas across the state. I want to make sure that we are bringing in those subject matter experts from the DNR for certain, because that is the state agency that helps, those are the subject matter experts that help advise this board and the state auditor and others. But also we need to make sure that we have participation from the public, because there are a lot of smart people in this state. We need to make sure that all voices are at this table, helping us to make these decisions and bring forward not only concerns, but relevant data and information to make sure that we are making the right decision in all of these important decisions, because our environment is so sacred to all of us, and if we don't have that, my goodness, we don't have much else. So yeah, it's going to be a balance, but we need to make sure that we are making the right decision. That means bringing all voices in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Adam.
Thank you. I'm really not sure there's much more I can add to this. I would say we have a long storied tradition of protecting our resources here in Minnesota. Certainly the boundary waters, Lake Superior is one of the largest freshwater bodies of water on the entire planet. We need to do everything that we can to protect those. We follow the regulation. We follow the science. And any land grant that comes across my desk, if I'm honored enough to have this position, we're going to have a really high bar for things. I guess the only thing that I would add is that copper sulfide mining has no business being in the state whatsoever. I have not seen the proof out there, and until I can see unmitigated proof that our groundwater will not be poisoned by that particular mining, it's not going to happen in this state.
Meredith, thanks for hanging in. We've got a few more questions here. Babar Khan with the Muslim Caucus, the DFL Muslim Caucus, is going to ask the next question. Babar.
Hi, everyone. And thank you so much for being with us. This time I met a few of you, like in some other conventions and places. So nice to see you again. A bit dance with Adams also. My dancing was not that good, but he was good. So coming to the question that we have, the next question is the answer is short, so it will be more a relief for you guys. Is the state auditor is a
Can
key member
you,
of the Minnesota.
Babar, it's a little hard to hear you. Can you maybe bring your mic closer?
It is there. Let me do it again. The
There you
state
go.
auditor, can you hear
That
me right now?
works.
Okay. The state auditor is a key member of the Minnesota State Board of Investment. This role requires investing for profitability while holding high values of morality. Will you invest in the bonds of foreign countries with track record of gross human rights violations per the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, child labor, and or war crimes? Yes or no? Should I repeat so this question is we'll start from Dan.
No.
Okay. And then we could
Or I don't
Zack.
know. Do we have a full 90 seconds to extrapolate, or is it just yes or no?
We do have 90 seconds, but we want the yes or no.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if it was just the one answer, if we only got a yes or no. But I will say no, and I would say absolutely not. Our investments are a reflection of our values, and we need to put our money where our mouth is. And yeah, it's a reflection of our morals, where we put our investments, where we trust Minnesota taxpayer dollars. It says a lot about who are as a state, and should not be investing bonds in foreign countries with a track record of gross human rights violations.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. And Zack.
Thank you, Babar. So great to meet you at the SEC meeting a little while back. My answer is no as well. And we have to remember that this office, along with the other state constitutional offices, have a fiduciary duty to make sure that we do get the highest returns on our state investments. These four individuals, they have an obligation in state code. I believe it's state statute 356A .04 that sets forth that general standard to make sure that we are getting the highest possible financial return with the least amount of risk possible for our state investments. You are correct that this is also a moral question, so we need to balance that. And I'm so glad that that Minnesota has been leading the charge in some respects regarding ESG investing as well. And so I would look to continue that type of fiduciary responsibility and that type of investing. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Adam.
So I'm no as well. And this is actually something that we had to do when I was at Allianz. Headquarters came out and indicated that they didn't want to invest in any weapons of war. Globally, Allianz is, I think, the fifth largest company on the planet. And we had over $1 trillion in assets at that time. And we were able to successfully divest of those things and still maintain the rates of return that were required on the annuities that we had. And that's exactly the asset liability management that happens there is identical to pension math. It's the exact same thing. I've already been there. I've already done it. We have the capability of doing it. Minnesota needs to continue to be a leader in this nation. You do what you can, where you can, with what you have. In total dollars, our pensions are large, but on a relative basis, we're not that big. If Allianz can get it done, certainly the state of Minnesota can get it done.
Okay. Thank you, Adam. And Ben.
Yeah, thank you, Babakan. Thanks for the question. I'm a no as well. I agree with the others. We need to lead with our values. That's something that's been critical, that's been essential to me. In 16 years I've served, you lead with your values. I think there's precedent in Minnesota. If you look back in the 80s and the apartheid, and they made decisions not to invest with dirty energy as well recently. So I think there's precedent that we can lead with our values. If you look at this office, people talk about Paul Wellstone. Paul Wellstone actually ran for this office back in 1982. And if you look at what he said this was one of his key points. We need to make investments in Minnesota and the companies and the people and the values that make Minnesota strong. So that's what I would bring to this. To that board and lead with the values. So I agree with the others. And thank you for the question. It's an important one.
Thank you, everyone. And I'll move to
Thank you,
Saraswati.
Bobber.
Yeah.
All right, Saraswati has our next question. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Saraswati Singh, and I'm from the Feminist Caucus, and we've met earlier. And my question is the following. The legislative auditor oversees state government departments, while your office oversees local government units. How do you foresee interacting with that office? And what are your views about the proposed inspector general structure? This is a long question, so it goes on. How will you communicate effectively to the public about the work of the Office of the State Auditor, given the challenging nature of discussing financial issues? And the first person that gets to answer this question, it's also dropped in the chat, is Zack. Hello again.
Wonderful. Hello. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is an important question because it really distinguishes the state auditor's role from the legislative auditor's role. We should not be duplicating those priorities because then we're paying double for the same service twice. I think that I know from talking with our current state auditor, Julie Blaha, there is a lot of conversation that does happen between those two offices, making or sharing information on different things. I think that's super, super important. I would certainly continue that. The inspector generals, I think that is a good move for our state agencies. Those are the folks that can help make sure that we prevent fraud before it starts and have that hands-on preventative internal control measure in place in those state agencies that we've been seeing a lot of this fraud and things happen. And to the last point of the question about how do we communicate that with the public? Well, I've already committed to going out into greater Minnesota and elsewhere, into the metro, and hold public forums and help answer people's questions, hear it from the horse's mouth. My background in accounting, I give a finance report every month to our board, to our staff at the organization that I work for, talking about the story of our financials and what that means to and for the organization. And so I feel I would be very, very comfortable doing that and answering questions and making sure that people know exactly how their local financial dollars work and partnering again with those local units of government, partnering with the legislative auditor to make sure people know the differences between those two offices and the different services that they provide, with the state auditor focusing on your local tax dollars.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zack. Adam, you're next.
Yeah, thanks. I view the state auditor's office as largely a partnership. I mean, we've got roughly 3,500 entities throughout the state of Minnesota that represent about $60 billion in assets. And like we were talking about before, a lot of these places don't have the tax base to afford their own treasurer or finance director. And you've got volunteers from the community who are stepping up. And when you're in that kind of environment, you're gonna have mistakes. It's gonna happen. And it's like that old adage, if you hear hoofbeats, think of horses, not zebras. I think by and large, people are good. They're not nefarious. They're not out there trying to steal money from us. And go in with an open mind when you're talking to these local communities and understand that. Now, if you find a red flag, you look into it. If there's fraud, you prosecute. But I think when it comes to the Inspector General's office specifically, I frankly don't think that there's anything wrong with the current structure that we have between the OSA and the OLA. If anything, they're underfunded. It gets back to what I was saying about the number of employees that we have now and the fact that we simply need more. I get very concerned that the Inspector General's office would be essentially window dressing for the media. It would create more bureaucracy. It would actually take funding away from the offices that actually need it. Now, when it comes to communicating, I pledge, just like Steve Simon, to visit every single one of those 87 counties and go out there. And I've got 15,000 miles in my truck already since October, and we're going to continue to do it once we're in office as well. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Adam. Ben, you're up.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I just want to make sure I get all the points. So first of all, I fully support Senator Gustafson's Senate File 856, the Inspector General's office. I mentioned before, it has to be all hands on deck, but I fully support that. And with the legislative office and the new office of Inspector General, my focus on local governments, I will work, in whatever way that I can to make sure that it's all hands on deck and we're addressing the fraud and making sure that we're building trust from the public. As far as communicating to the public in general, I think the important thing is, first of all, being from a rural community, I understand you need to show up, right? You need to show up. And I think we can take examples from other states. In Washington State, they, I mentioned the performance audits they do. And they created a Center for Government Innovation, right? If you're out with the finance directors and the city clerks and the treasurers in these communities, we can create a Center for Innovation. When they see, in Washington State, for every dollar that they spend on a performance audit, which is through an enterprise fund, so it doesn't cost taxpayer money, but $16 is returned. There are opportunities for efficiency through a Center for Government Innovation, but we need to bring those voices of local leaders, and I'll be out in the communities gathering it. I really believe strongly we have to be in those communities.
Thank you, Ben. Dan.
Well, it's the only legislator in this race. I'm the only candidate who actually has experience working with the legislative auditor and overseeing them. I really appreciate the work the legislative auditor does. But again, our current system is not working. If we are to go to tell voters everything we're doing with fraud is just fine, let's just keep doing what we're doing, nothing to see here, we shouldn't make any changes, they're going to punish us at the ballot box and we're going to be seen as out of touch. The legislative auditor is great. They're accountable to the legislature. The legislature, hate to admit it, we're a partisan body. The legislature votes on the topics for the legislative auditor to look at. I actually have my ballot right here. It's due tomorrow. While it's great that we have an auditor that's accountable to the legislature, I want to make the state auditor's office accountable to the people of Minnesota. And I'm glad to hear the support for SF 856. My plan is the exact same thing as the Office of Inspector General bill does. If you're worried about duplication or whatever, then you should take that criticism to the OIG proposal. My bill has, instead of an Office of Inspector General that's been appointed governor, my bill gives this authority to the state auditor, who is directly accountable to the people of Minnesota. There's so much trust that's been broken in our state stewardship of taxpayer dollars. The best way we can go to restoring that is by giving the people of Minnesota the opportunity to make the state auditor's office a one-stop shop of taxpayer accountability, whether every 4 years. And again, I see it as working in conjunction with the legislative auditor, doing double looks at things. You might call that duplicating. I call it trust and verify. It's like how your local city police department works with the county sheriff. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Our current system that we've had in place since 1973 is not working. We've got to change this and have the state auditor and legislative auditor work together to combat fraud.
Thank you, Dan. I'm kicking it over to Teresa, who will announce the next person and question.
Thanks, candidates. I'm learning a lot here. Well, our next question is asked by Megan Bond. Megan? Question 6. And while Megan's coming on, someone asked, when will the recording be available? I'll only say as soon as possible, and it will go to the respective caucuses and the candidates.
Thank you, Teresa. This question is, as a member of the State Board of Investment, how would you make sure that you are upholding your fiduciary duty to assure state employee pension funds are financially sustainable while considering the social and environmental practices of potential investments? And the order to answer these would be Adam, Ben, Dan, and then Zack. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate this. This kind of gets back to what we were talking about before. When I was at Allianz, this is something that we had involvement with. I mean, we had a very large portfolio. I mean, one of our issues was that we had lots of money and we had to figure out where to plug it in order to get the return, in order to meet our obligations to the annuities that we were overseeing. And it's possible to walk and chew gum on this. We can do both at the same time. Marketplace is a big place. And if there are assets out there that don't align with our values, we have the ability to not invest in those things and still have a risk-adjusted return and use portfolio theory to simply invest in other assets that'll get us what we need and the return for those pension holders while doing it in a socially equitable way. Certainly, I know right now, like the state of Israel, I believe that they are committing genocide. I do not believe that we should be investing in assets from the state of Israel right now. I'm pretty firmly on that. And that's one of the places that I think that we should focus on significantly right now. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Ben.
Yeah, thanks for the question again. Yeah, like Adam said, it kind of goes back to the previous question. I think the important thing for me is these are retirement, right? Like these are people's retirements. And I would say this, I would make sure that we're using professionals and I'm taking the advice of professionals. I'm not interested in investing in, risky cryptocurrency or other risky investments. I think we need, I think we need. I'm not going to pretend like I'm the professional. I'm going to listen to the professionals. I'll bring the values, right? Like I think that I will bring the values into these decisions. And then the last thing, like I mentioned before, I really believe that, boy, we need to invest. If we're not willing to invest in ourselves, who's going to invest in us? That's what we said in Fergus Falls. I think it's the same as the state, right? Like we need to look at companies that are benefiting, have the values and the benefits to the people of Minnesota and invest in those companies. So that's what I would bring to that decision.
Thank you. And then Dan.
Well, I do have some professional experience with this question. I've served proudly for years on the Legislative Commission on Pensions and Retirement. And I've looked through all kinds of annuity reports, and pensions is different because unlike other things in the state budget that go in 2-year, 4-year increments, we have to be looking long term. We actually, when we make our pension proposals, we budget them for 30 years out because that's how crucial these long-term investments are. And I think this question maybe hits a false narrative because there really isn't a fiduciary conflict between financial sustainability and considering social environmental practices. The two go hand in hand. One of the biggest risks that we have are the threats caused by climate change and carbon pollution. So we have got to have criteria that's based in ESG, environmental social governance. I also have experience with this on the serving on the Capital Investment Committee. during my time on that committee now, make it a criteria when we're looking to invest in projects throughout the state. We look at what's going to be their carbon footprint, what's going to be their carbon impact, because risks and the harms done by climate change are direct threats to our fiduciary duties to invest in long-term sustainability of these funds. So we've got to have a strong reliance on ESG. We've got to be very clear about making sure that we are investing in places that follow good standards for clean energy and not polluting or having any pollution violations. That's the approach I've taken on the Pensions
Thank you.
Commission. That's the approach that I've taken on the Capital Investment Committee, and that's the approach I'll take as our next state auditor with these.
Thank you.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, very, very important question. And again, I am very glad and supportive of the actions that the State Board of Investment have already taken back a few years ago. I forget exactly when, in regards to ESG. That is something that I hold dear as an accountant. I've worked when I worked in our wastewater treatment plant. We actually had an investment policy that had ESG incorporated into that policy with our investments that I helped to oversee there. The question was about pensions and making sure that the fiduciary duty of the office is also upheld with those ESG fundamental principles. And so I want to make sure that we have a union member on that advisory board. I believe there is one currently. We need to make sure that stays there. And I'm always open to talking with especially union members, but folks with some of that expertise. And so I think it's so important that we have those voices at the table. I'm a former union member. My parents both have union pensions as well. So I know how important these retirement funds are for people, and we're going to protect them. Thank you.
Thanks. And candidates, just a reminder that Ron calls 30 and you have 30 more seconds. I think one of you might have mistook that for a stop. Our next question will be asked by Alyssa Brickman. Alyssa, go ahead.
Hi. What relationship does the Minnesota State Auditor have with tribal governments, and how do you envision working with Native communities if elected? And Ben, would you go first?
Yeah, of course, sure. Thanks, Alyssa. I don't think I need to tell anyone here, like, no matter what metrics you look at, there are some real disparities facing our, tribal nations. As you know, in my day job, I'm a director of civic partnerships for one of the initiative foundations, serves 82 counties and a portion of the White Earth Nation. I would just say this: I'm not going to go into this job pretending that I know what they need from me in that state auditor's office. What I've learned is we need to show up and listen. We need to show up, build relationships, and listen to what the needs are from those tribal governments. And I'm committed to doing that. And I'm committed to making sure that we make investments that are based on the conversations and the learning that we have by actually listening to these communities of how we can best be partners with them in mutual success for all of us.
Thank you. Dan.
Well, Melissa Hortman did obviously so many amazing things for the state of Minnesota. One of the accomplishments that doesn't talk about often enough is,
Ben.
I'm sorry, I think someone's unmuted and I'm getting feedback.
But I liked that.
I'm sorry, I can't hear because someone's unmuted. Okay, I'll restart. Thank you. One of the most important things that Melissa Hortman did was reestablish and make a strong effort to connect and govern in partnership with our tribal governments. She actually started a sovereignty day where we had all the tribal presidents and present and build those intergovernmental relationships. And I learned so much about tribal governments, and I want to carry that over. The role has to play is we partner with county governments for shared services such as law enforcement, EMT, health services. And as state auditor, I will take extra hard looks at that and make sure that our tribal governments are getting the resources that they deserve in those agreements. And I also want to make sure that we have an established, dedicated tribal liaison to have a specific leader within the Office of Legislative Auditor who focuses solely on tribal relations and ensuring that our tribal leaders have a direct high-level line of communication to our office.
I think I'm next. And yeah, very, very important question. In my day job, I get to work with four of our tribal nations up in northeast Minnesota, including the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe. And these nations are Ben's right. There are a lot of disparities between in these tribal on these reservations, and that means that we need to have a true partnership with those tribal nations, with those, and truly build partnerships and relationships with those folks. And that means that let's be in community. Let's be in community with folks. And I think that is going to be important as we continue to build those relationships. I've been working with tribal nations and actually tribal business owners to help them build their businesses with some of the loan funds that I help manage and do underwriting for. And so it's building that economic base, but it's also building that social capital and those relationships that are so, so important to make sure things get done, and things get done with trust in mind. That is critical if we're going to have a long-term, lasting, sustainable relationship and strong partnership to make sure that everyone's needs are met in this state. Thank you.
Thank you. And Adam?
Yeah, I think it's really important to remember that these are sovereign nations. Lest we forget that we're all living on stolen land right now. And I think there are significant inequities that exist.
I like this guy.
The way, I'm sorry. Anyway, but there are significant inequities that exist. And there are programs that I think have been put in place in an attempt to put a Band-Aid on things. And I think the best role that the auditor has is to go in, certainly listen. It is about community, but it's also to make sure that any dollars that we're attempting or being allocated to provide any sort of help are being spent equitably, and we're there to make sure that the things that we are providing are going to the right places to help with poverty and addiction, and some of the things I think that plague so many of the tribes due to activity of the white culture that took over so long ago.
Thank you
very much.
Martha, you are asking the next question, and if I can again remind everybody, please don't unmute if you are not speaking. Go ahead, Martha.
Thank you. Once again, how do you plan to most effectively use the scarce resources of the Office of the State Auditor? My sequence is Dan, Zach, Adam, and Ben. Dan.
All right. Well, with over 3,000 local units of government, the OSA really has its work cut out for it. It has to be as smart and strategic as possible in where they allocate their limited resources at human hour. So the best way that we can do this is to take a look at modernizing the technologies that we use, both with the auditor's office and with local governments throughout the state. One thing that we could potentially invest in and take a look at is advanced data analytics infrastructure. It would do a preliminary automated review of different budgets and flag if there are any anomalies or dramatic changes, payments. Then a human auditor can go in and take a look, but having technology maybe sort through some of those things first on the front end can help be more efficient. we also, it's not just the state auditor's office that has scarce resources, our counties have scarce resources as well. And their technology is so outdated.
30.
In fact, I've been working with counties this session to modern the technology that they use to distribute human services benefits. Believe it or not, the software that they use, they're using the same software that they've had since 1989. That software is older than me. It takes so much time. It wastes so much resources. If we can invest throughout the state how efficient the state technology is, we can best manage the scarce resources that we have, the maximum impact of efficiency, transparency, and accountability for auditing of taxpayer dollars.
Thank you, Dan. Zach.
Thank you, Martha, for the question. Yeah. So all these rural places and these cities and towns, they use the CTAS system, or City and Town Accounting System and software. This is an old. I just had somebody yesterday talk with me about how antiquated this system is, and we need to make improvements there. That will help with the efficiency, not only for the auditor's office, but also for those smaller communities, to make sure that they have that they're able to produce and submit the reports on time and with accuracy. And as far as managing the scarce resources of the state auditor's office, well, shoot, that's what I've been doing practically my entire career, is managing budgets and making sure that we have proper resource allocations to get the job done. I have that boots on the ground experience. I think I mentioned previously that I manage a team of people. I'm on the leadership team of the organization that I am in right now. And so not only leading the people, the human resources, but also making sure that the financial resources of the organization are kept in check and are being used their highest and best use. That's incredibly important. And I think, there's been a lot of talk about scarcity of resources. We need to stabilize the office. There's a lot of turnover in the office right now. And that's primarily because of this shortage of accountants. We need to make sure that our compensation packages in the state auditor's office is up to snuff, so we are competitive with private accounting firms who are trying to get the best talent. We want the best talent looking after our local tax dollars. And so that is a priority of mine. I also want to make sure that the training and support division, or the guidance division in the state auditor's office, is fully staffed up, as well as we go into this time of reduced
Thank you.
professional and volunteer experience especially in our rural communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. Adam.
Yeah, thank you. It gets, ultimately this gets back to what I was saying before. We need more people in the office. We could hire 60 for roughly 9 million. I think that we need to continue to approach the legislature about this. And if for some reason it doesn't pass, take the show on the road and go out to the local communities and talk to those cities, talk to those mayors, talk to those communities, and create a grassroots movement to push their representatives to push for the funding that's needed. Certainly there needs to be a review of the IT systems, but in order to pursue anything like that, that's also going to take funding, which also requires engaging the legislature. And I think we need to go in eyes wide open on that. But, as the mayor of a city of around 1,500 people, I have 3 administrative staff. And there are so many communities out there that on any given day, you're just trying to, you should see election season when it comes around. The amount of resources that we have to distribute in order to get everything done on any given day, working on a shoestring. And I think, one of the things that Julie Blaha had indicated is that we have a lot of private audits out there that we're receiving, and they're coming in PDF form, and they're just sitting on a server. So if we can come up with something as simple as AI to go in and do kind of an initial review on those, run some ratios, see if there's anything that kind of pops to at least create a priority list that provides additional guidance for the auditors that we have, that's a great place to start. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Ben.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So, I mentioned those businesses that my wife Tessa and I started, and when I think back on that, so we started those businesses, we put everything and a little bit more into those businesses. We literally built them, put the stud walls up with our own hands, while raising 5 kids. I say that because I know something about scarce resources and how to stretch a budget. Also, as mayor, like when I took office as a city council member first, the amount of local government aid our city received was right at equal to the amount that we would levy local property taxes. By the time I was mayor, it was about a third local government aid to what we had to levy. I say that because in that time period, in those 20 years, the cost of police cars, the cost of health insurance, the cost of everything. Natural gas has gone up for cities. So we had to stretch a budget. So I'm used to stretching a budget. Here's what I would do. I'll make sure to go out and talk to the actual people in the communities. What are the services they need? Ultimately, this is an office that serves the local governments, right? What are the services they need? Get their voices, bring them into the process, and make sure we do it effectively and efficiently. Of course, I'm not going to be afraid to ask for more money. I think there are opportunities, as mentioned, to expand into performance audits to make some of those efficiencies, but definitely have a track record of making the most of scarce resources.
Thank you, Ben.
All right. Ron has the next question. Go ahead, Ron.
Thank you, Teresa. And again, welcome everyone. And on behalf of all the 9 caucuses and their members and voters, we really appreciate you being here. I have the playing well with others question. Are you all ready? So we're going to start with Zack, followed by Adam, Ben, and Dan. Okay? So please tell us what skills and abilities that you have to improve bridge building, cooperation, collaboration, and effective government decision making.
Awesome. Ron, I love this question. One, the word on Team Zack, our F word is friendly, and I am just so appreciative of the other candidates. We've all been so nice to each other and friendly in this race. I want to talk a little bit about my experience. I have some very far and broad endorsement support in this race, first off, from very, very liberal progressives like Senator Jen McEwen and State Representative Leach Kowalski to pretty middle of the road Democrats like Senator Grant Hochschild and Ann Rest. And that takes building relationships. And that's what I have done my entire council career. That's what I've done in my professional life as well. It's about sitting down and finding that common ground and how we can work together. No one is ever going to find the 100% perfect candidate 100% of the time, but we can work together on things that we agree on. And I have done that. For example, when I was the youngest city council president elected by my peers in Duluth, I put together the Earn Safe and Sick Time Task Force, and we brought together a very diverse group of people, different thoughts on the subject, and they produced a report for the city council for us to consider, and we debated back and forth, and it was so much fun, just like this campaign is. But we also got the best result from that, and it actually mirrors very closely to what the state Earn Safe and Sick Time policy is, because we brought together those diverse viewpoints, and I'm very, very proud of that work and of those relationships that I have built and will continue to build. Thank you.
Go ahead, Adam.
Great, thank you. Yeah, Tonka Bay, we have joint powers agreements for both police and fire. On the police, we share it with 3 other cities, and on the fire side, we share it with 4 other cities. So we have partnerships, and I'm on the phone almost daily with any number of mayors that are around here. But I also think about the fact that in 2018, I ran for Congress, and my opponent was Dean Phillips, who ultimately got the endorsement and went on to flip the district for the first time in 65 years. But we maintained a good relationship as well. One of the largest struggles that we've had as a city has been fixing our infrastructure. And he was able to procure, as part of Biden's infrastructure bill, a $3 million grant for us. So I was able to maintain that relationship, but it was kind of a double-edged sword. The money was great, but what came with it was a whole host of federal and state oversight as well that included any number of agencies. And there was, it put a lot of pressure on the residents, put a lot of pressure on the city staff and the number of resources we have there. But I'm very proud of the fact that we've been able to repair 25% of our water, sewer, and roads since I've been here. And we did that particular project, under budget. as well. So I have a long history of developing relationships throughout my career. I think it's the reason I was promoted to management in my late 20s. Ultimately, management is about people, and this is what we need to do in order to have a good state auditor and keep that office running well.
Thank you, Adam. Ben, you're up.
Yeah, thanks. I really appreciate this question too, because this is critical to good government, is building partnerships and collaboration. I'm really proud of the work that we did in Fergus Falls while I was mayor. We brought people into the process that had never been involved in their local government before, and I'm incredibly proud of that. When I took office as mayor, there were 24 vacant storefronts lining our three-block stretch of downtown. There were blighted industrial sites along our river. There were big boxes that were leaving town because of national closures. We built relationships between public and private partnerships. We built between local and state governments. We built coalitions that in the community that had never existed before, and we filled those empty storefronts. We repurposed the big box stores, and we redeveloped those industrial sites. And we did it because of relationships, right? Like, the world works because of relationships. If you look at the coalitions we've been able to put together, the endorsements, across our party and across the state, this is what it's about, and it leads to good government. If you can build coalitions the way we've done in Fergus Falls, if you come to Fergus Falls, when they said Fergus Falls was dying, I think I would welcome all of you to come to Fergus Falls, because Fergus Falls isn't dying. We built the relationships, and that's what happens when you can build those relationships that are meaningful and lead to good outcomes for everyone.
Thank you, Ben. And Dan, you're up.
I have spent my entire 8 years in the House of Representatives dedicated to bringing people together to get things done. And my proudest accomplishments have been the coalitions that I've built with units of local government from all throughout the state. I am so honored to have introduced over 40 different bills working with cities, counties, townships, school boards, and the things we've accomplished together. I've been really proud of the work that I've done with cities. I actually won recognition from the League of Minnesota Cities for our collaboration on some data practice sharing improvements to state law. I've worked with school boards from all across the state on multiplying by 10 the amount that school districts receive for their special education cross-site. I've had opportunity to work with counties on, got a whole number of things. I actually represent 3 counties. That's not easy. And with townships, we can't forget about the townships. I've worked with townships on all kinds of things, from my favorite, making updates to our sewer regulations. It's really important. Unfortunately, I also had to work with Republicans. We are a tied House of Representatives, so I actually had the task of having to pass a $4 billion budget out of a committee that was equally Democrats, equally Republicans. You build coalitions, you listen, you treat others with respect. Even when you don't agree on something, you keep coming back, you keep finding ways to get to yes. That was the biggest thing I learned about negotiating from Melissa Hortman, was no matter how far apart you might be on something, keep finding ways to get to yes. That's why I've been successful in the House of Representatives, and that's what I'll do to be successful as our next state auditor.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Oops.
Oh, apologies. We're moving to our last question. Dave Lee.
I am Dave Lee from the AAPI Caucus, and the order of the candidates for this question is Adam, Ben, Dan, and Zack. There are over 3,000 local units of government. Local decision-making is important, yet smaller units may lack the capacity to handle finances. Should larger units such as counties become fiscal agents for those smaller units? Why or why not? And Adam is first.
Yeah, so this is we have to be careful when we answer this question. I'm not sure there's a silver bullet solution to this particular answer. And I say that specifically with regards to the joint powers agreements that we're currently in as part of my city. I think it's a good example of, from a fiscal standpoint, that sharing of resources is fantastic. It costs us significantly less to get both police and fire services. However, there are issues that also come with that, because it makes the decision-making process more cumbersome. And I can see where if you were to start centralizing activities, while it could be helpful from a fiscal standpoint, local communities don't have the same sorts of independence that they otherwise might. I think we just need to be very careful when we're taking a look at these. Again, I don't think it's a one-fits-all sort of solution, but we do need to be creative and mindful about what it is we're doing going forward.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I'm a no on this one for a couple reasons. First of all, I think it's, counties are strapped right now, and I'm just a big believer in local control. There are some small units of government that can use assistance. I was talking to the clerk treasurer of the city of Clitheroe, population 84 in the 80s anyway. And they're on the phone with the state auditor's office all the time, right? And those are part-time positions, but they also are the ones that are in these communities. And I think that there are resources we can provide these communities. But as a mayor, I'm just a big believer in local control and making sure that those decisions are at the local level. And I think making sure if there's assistance, I don't think it should come from the county. I think it can come from the state auditor's office to make sure that they have the capacity. And that treasurer said, I would love to be audited to find out how we can do things better, right? Not simply a financial audit that looks backwards, but making sure that we're giving them the tools and resources to move forward and make efficiencies in local government. I think these local professional public employees, they want to do that, right? And we need to help and partner with them to give them the resources.
Thank you. Dan is next.
Well, during my years in the House, I've had the privilege of representing one city, 3 counties, and 2 townships. It's quite a multi-layered cake. And I will tell you that no local government should ever be forced or be mandated to give up any of their sovereignty to a bigger government. This is something I hear about all the time from the Minnesota Association of Townships. Actually, just a couple weeks ago, met with township advisors from all across the state. They said, please protect us from having forced mandated overtaking of another entity of government. The approach that needs to be encouraged is, and Mr. Jennings brought this up earlier, was leaning in that joint powers agreement, where local smaller units of government can take kind of an a la carte approach at figuring out if there are some services that they can partner with other governments while still maintaining their sovereignty and that local control. What I will do as state auditor is go through and run the numbers, find out where are the efficiencies, find out how can these joint powers be providing maximum efficiency and effectiveness for those local dollars, and use those numbers, use that data, use those reports that the state auditor can provide so that our local governments are making the best, most informed decision on how they can adequately provide the resources to the citizens of their local government, while also maintaining that important local control and sovereignty that means so much. It's such a point of pride for the people who live in those smaller units of government.
Thank you. And Zack.
Thank you. Very important question. We were talking about resource allocation within the state auditor's office. This is a big deal for that, because there's so many local communities that need that support, that need that guidance and that audit experience as well. 20% of local governments are audited once every 5 years in the state of Minnesota. That comes down to a capacity issue. That comes down to capacity issue of not only the state auditor's office, but how much it costs to do that work for our local units of government. I think that if there are overlapping jurisdictions that want to pursue that, the state auditor's office is very well positioned to help in that effort of having a fiscal sponsor. And joint powers agreements, those are excellent ways to do this work as well, and can kind of combine some of those facets as well. We have joint powers agreements actually in Duluth cross-state into the city of Superior. We have joint powers agreements with so many of our other surrounding local communities that sharing resources is critical. And I think we can explore and partner with local communities to make sure that we can explore the resources to get our financial statements done properly in local communities and done correctly for our local communities. Maybe a township and a school district can help share the finance professional to make sure that both of those reports are getting into the state auditor's office correctly and on time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Ron. We are in the final part of our candidate forum, and each of the candidates have a 1-minute closing statement, and Ron will time you again. Before we do that, Alyssa, if you can put their contact info back in the chat. And I just want to say thank you to the candidates for hanging in there. I don't know, this is a long candidate. But we're wrapping it up, and I really appreciate your participation. I also did just want to say on behalf of the team that we do apologize for misspelling Ben's name on one of our notices. We thought we had taken care of it, but of course, when you have something digitally, if there's a mistake, it is hard to, it's like playing whack-a-mole. All right, so let's go ahead with our candidate closing statements, and we'll start with Dan Wolgamott.
Well, thanks again to everyone for putting on this forum, for participating. It's been a really incredible conversation. It makes my heart happy to see so many people engaged in this auditor's race. I also want to give a thanks to each of my, I don't like to think of us as opponents. I feel like we're more like competitors. I really appreciate all of you. You're all great guys, and it's really an honor to hit the campaign trail with you. And folks have a tough choice, but I'll close with this by saying that while we've got a lot of great candidates here, I'm the only candidate in this race with experience working statewide with all levels of local government, pensions, tax increment finance districts. I'm the only candidate in this race with experience overseeing billions of taxpayer dollars, the third largest budget in state government. I'm the only candidate in this race who has a plan to combat fraud in our state agencies by expanding the state auditor's authority to do annual audits of all of our state agencies. And I'm the only candidate before you tonight who knows what it's like to defeat a Republican. I'm a battle-tested campaigner. I know what it takes to connect with the voters that we need to win the auditor's office and elect Democrats up and down the ballot. My name is Dan Wolgamott. I would be so honored to have your support to be Minnesota's next state auditor. Thank you to each and every one of you. We'll see you out on the campaign trail.
Thanks, Dan. All righty, Ben Schierer.
Thanks, Teresa. No worries on the name. I'm not easily offended, and an apology accepted. All right. Hey, everyone. Again, yeah, Ben Schierer, it's great to be with you. Hey, listen, Minnesota has a history as being a state where government works, right? We have a real opportunity in this race to elect someone that can help local government, make sure that local government has the tools and resources, and there's no office closer. I have that experience that I think is different. If you look at my experience with local government, it's different than the other candidates in this race. I'm really proud of the work we've done and the relationships we've built. And equally as important, listen, there is a real opportunity in 2026 for us as DFLers to win back some of those voters that we've lost. We have built a coalition across the state, across our party, across all levels of government. We can win back those voters, but we need to have candidates who have lived and worked and served in those communities. I'm Ben Schierer, and that's why I'm running for state auditor. I really want to thank all the caucuses for putting this on tonight, and to my competitors.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it. All right, Adam Jennings.
Yeah, thank you. This has been absolutely wonderful, and I'm glad we had the opportunity, and thanks for putting it together. I've said this before, but with this particular position, while I think a financial background is extremely important to have the sort of oversight we need, and I've spent a career doing that, it's ultimately a management position. I was first promoted in my late 20s. I oversaw a crew of 37 that was made up of 2 separate teams while I was there, learned a lot from it. It's not something that you can learn in a day either. When I was in the military, I was enlisted first, but when I came home from deployment, I went to officer candidate school. The largest number of soldiers I oversaw was 120. That was as a battalion commander. We had 2 companies made up of 4 different platoons. I learned about managing managers while I was there. But even today, with the 30 employees I have, if you include the city, police, firefighters, public works, city admin, that's another 72. That's 103 people right now today. And so I have a long track record of this, and we need to be prepared day one to step in and be essentially servant leaders.
Thank you.
Because that's what you need to do. But thank you for the time, and thanks again for all of this. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Adam. Zack Filipovich is our final candidate here. Thanks, Zack.
Thank you all so much for being here. I want to thank the caucuses and I want to thank all the candidates. You guys are great and really appreciate the time. Have I mentioned that I'm the only accountant in this race? There's a math question that I do in my stump speech. If you add up 12 years of accounting experience, 8 years in local government, add in a little former union member, I'm former AFSCME Local 66, that adds up to be state auditor. Kind of biff the punchline there. Sorry, guys. But I think we have the best field plan. We are having so much fun on this campaign. And it's truly a testament to how exciting the state auditor's race actually is, and the excitement of the work. I know I'm excited about it. It's so inspiring to see so many new faces at conventions, and this party is drawing the circle bigger. This campaign is doing our part to try to help draw that circle bigger and invite people in and make sure people have that voice, make sure people know that they have an ally in this race. And so I just want to thank all of you for being here. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thanks, candidates, so much. It's been an enlightening candidate forum, and I'm really grateful for your taking the time. We're going to move on, and we will wrap this up before 9 o'clock. So our next part and our final part is to simply introduce in 1 minute all of the caucuses that are part of this team in co-sponsoring the State Auditor Candidate Forum. So we're going to remove the auditor candidates from the spotlight. Ron will continue to be our timekeeper. Thanks, Ron, for doing that. You are a glutton for punishment. Okay, we're going to start with someone here from the African American Caucus, Nia or Nico Woods. All right, we're going to go to AAPI, Dave Lee.
Hi, I'm Dave Lee. I'm the vice chair of the AAPI Caucus. And our AAPI caucus is working to uplift the voices of Asian American and Pacific Islander Minnesotans within the DFL and across the state. Our communities are among the fastest growing in Minnesota and are incredibly diverse, representing dozens of cultures, languages, ethnicities, and lived experiences. We advocate for policies that promote equity, language access, economic opportunity, culturally competent services, and full civic participation. We also work to build leadership pipelines and ensure AAPI voices are represented at every level of government. So thank you to the candidates for being here tonight, and to everyone who was here for engaging with the community and with the DFL process. Thanks for joining us. Thank you.
It was good to meet you and to work with you here. Environmental Caucus, Megan Bond.
Thank you, Teresa. Thanks everyone for putting this on tonight. This has been fabulous. Like I said, I never knew the state auditor's race could be so exciting, but I'm really thankful to have everyone here tonight. I'm Megan Bond. I'm the chair emerita of the Environmental Caucus. As I said before, we are one of the largest and fastest growing and most active caucuses. We do several forums a year, at least quarterly, with membership meetings. During campaign election year, you'll frequently find us doing some candidate forums with our endorsed candidates. And speaking of that, we have been doing quite a bit of work on that. Just for some stats, since I am chairing the endorsements committee this year, we have 4 subcommittees, each handling districts of all levels in CDs 1 and 7, 2 and 3, 4 and 5, and 6 and 8 respectively. Our subcommittees and executive committee have thus far screened 86 candidates, endorsed 44 in Minnesota House, 13 for Minnesota Senate, 3 candidates for U.S. Senate, as well as Peggy Flanagan, or U.S. House, excuse me, Lord. Peggy Flanagan for U.S. Senate, Keith Ellison for the Attorney General, and Steve Simon for Secretary of State. And we're also working on screening candidates for County Commission in St. Louis, Hennepin, and Ramsey counties. So it's been a busy year for us. So stay in touch because we will definitely have a lot of activities such as candidate forums and door knocks for our endorsed candidates as the year progresses. So thanks so much.
Megan, thank you. And Megan used to be the chair of our endorsement committee. We miss you.
Oh, thank you.
All right, Feminist Caucus, Saraswati.
Thank you so much. I'm the vice chair, but our chair was able to join us. So Alicia Gibson is going to take the stage.
Oh, hey, Alicia, I did see you in there. Thank you.
No worries. I made it off the road. Thank you all for being with us. This was a wonderful experience to work together. And that's really what the Feminist Caucus has always been about. We've always been intersectional. We were one of the first caucuses, community caucuses for the DFL. We've been around for over 50 years. Right now, our priorities, of course, is to combat the rising misogyny that we see happening in our country and to promote the ERA, both in the Minnesota and at the federal level. Beyond that, we are also endorsing candidates and have a range of policies that we're advocating on behalf of women and children. We invite you to join our caucus. You can learn more about us and do that at our website. I think Alyssa has put up there, but it's just dflfeminist.org. We would love to have you join us. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of our candidates. I think that I speak for everyone. I say this was really a truly incredible night of learning, but also just showing the strength of our party and the deep bench we have at all levels of representation. So thank you all.
Hey, thanks, Alicia. My DFL, Logan Courtguard.
Hi, thanks for having us. My name is Logan Courtguard. I am the Executive Vice President for my DFL, the Minnesota Young DFL. Just want to thank the auditor candidates for coming tonight. My DFL is the Young Caucus of the DFL, and we have members from high school all the way up to age 36. We work to recruit, support, and train candidates under 36, and also support candidates who support what young people care about. And so I just want to invite anyone 36 or younger on the call to go to youngdfl.org and find out more about our caucus. We are working on getting endorsements going for Senate and congressional races, and we should have more up soon. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Logan. All righty, Muslim Caucus, Babar Khan.
Hello, this is Babar Khan. I'm chair DFL Muslim Caucus. It is really a big opportunity for us to go through 4 candidates at one time with endorsements going on. We are all short on bandwidth, and I really appreciate this opportunity. Now, DFL Muslim Caucus is basically just not about Muslims. It is about we support all underrepresented communities and the common causes. Although it started when we were pretty much the focus was on us in the first era of Trump, when Islamophobia was pretty much propagated from the top seat, and unfortunately, it has not stopped till date. So we support it. We want to make sure that we fight against it. We want to make sure that it is no different than fighting for anti-Semitism. When it comes to anti-Semitism, we are there with the Jewish community. We just want to make sure that all underrepresented communities are in good shape and contributing positively and not being targeted. We are part of many campaigns, and we would like our youth and community members to participate more actively in the political arena and become part of campaigns of all of these great candidates and their role and work for the common values. And we have been bitten by human rights and things and kind of selective use of human rights principles. And we want to make sure that it is for everyone, we even feel, and we should be respectful of all the communities. So thank you very much, and we have a Facebook page on DFL Muslim Caucus if you want to visit, and if you want to have a meeting, we are open and would like to share more about us. Thank you.
Thanks, Babar. Jeff Strand, DFL Rural Caucus.
Thank you, Teresa. Unmuting here. Thank you, Jeff Strand. I'm the vice chair of the DFL Rural Caucus, immediate past outreach officer, and we're filling that position in the coming month. So the DFL Rural Caucus, the membership are residents who are Minnesota residents who support the mission of our caucus and who identify with the concerns and values of the rural community in Minnesota. And so the caucus is, our mission is to advance DFL values in rural Minnesota and to strengthen the relationship between our Minnesota rural community and the DFL party. So we actively and continually seek to deepen our mutual commitment, understanding, and accountability by working to ensure that all rural voices representing Minnesota diverse populations are heard and respected. We try to work to develop leaders within the community who can run for public office, assume leadership positions within the party, and carry the party's message back to the community. So truly, we try to see that the voices of rural Minnesotans are uplifted. I want to thank my colleagues, Teresa Caveney and Alyssa Brickman, who are also part of the planning team, and Ron Wax is a member of our caucus as well. You will be seeing a QR code flash by with the Rural Caucus information. You can easily find the Rural Caucus website, find out about our activities. We're a very vibrant and robust caucus in Minnesota. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. And Martha Holton Dimmick, the DFL Senior Caucus.
I am Martha Holton Dimmick, and I represent the Minnesota DFL Senior Caucus. And I'm on the Political Action Committee, and I'm also on the board. The DFL Senior Caucus mission is to involve seniors throughout Minnesota in the political process to provide a vehicle for their active participation in the DFL party and to promote programs and legislation that protects and enhances the lives of seniors. The DFL Senior Caucus was founded in the spring of 2006 with the goal of increasing senior participation and influence in the Minnesota DFL party and the halls of government by encouraging seniors to participation in the political process, bringing focus and accountability to senior issues, and speaking up and securing support for those issues. We are the voice of seniors in the DFL party and in public assemblies and in legislative halls. I want to thank all of my co-sponsors tonight. This has been absolutely impressive and fabulous. And the competition between you all, or I should say y'all, is real. I'm very impressed by the candidates, the breadth of experience and intelligence and, forthcomingness in their responses to our questions tonight. So I want to wish good luck to all of you. Thank you.
Martha, thanks. Yes, I echo your opinion. We have great candidates. We should be so lucky. Jewish Community Outreach Organization, is there a rep here from JCU? All righty. Well, I would just like to say again, on behalf of the 9 co-sponsoring caucuses, thank you so much. Thank you very much to the candidates, and a shout out to Saraswati, Ron, Jeff, Martha, Alyssa, the people who really did the heavy lifting, Bobber, to make this a success. Libby Bent and the Environmental Caucus as well. I just really am grateful that people came together, worked hard, and pulled this off. So with that, I would just say good night. You see the slides. We'll send out the recording when it is available. It should be available soon, but we just have to logistically make sure that it's able to be sent easily. All right, everybody, good night. It's 8:57. What a good evening. Appreciate it.
Good night.